The worst possible thing you can do is give a client a final invoice that is above and beyond what they think it's going to cost.
We really started with consultations, like single day, walk and talk, homestead scale, making recommendations, walking around like, how do you prune this citrus tree? There's an erosion problem over here. What do you do? Writing up like a 3 to 5 page PDF, delivering that a few days after.
I've had to adapt and pivot my business multiple times to the point to where now my base advice to everybody is have 4 different types of business processes that come through 2 different channels. One's in person and one's online. Have a product and a service you do in person, or a product and service that you provide online.
Well, 4 streams of business may seem like a lot to begin with, and it's probably not the place to begin. It is a really smart permaculture strategy to have multiple streams of income in multiple avenues for service. But what if you're just getting started with a permaculture business? There's really 4 essential basic models for the permaculture practitioner to begin, start getting clients, start getting paid to do quote unquote permaculture. Eventually, you can develop your own IP or intellectual property. You can develop your own services for your own particular unique marketplaces, and you can even eventually sell permaculture without even calling it permaculture. Depending on what audience or market you're trying to serve, it doesn't always help to call something like we're doing permaculture. As long as you're solving problems and using permaculture as the sort of engine to arrive at the transformation that your client is looking for, that's a permaculture business. But if you're just getting started and you're curious, like, how do I get started as a permaculturist? I'm really excited about what I learned at the PDC, or I'm really excited about all that I'm learning about in permaculture in general. Where do I get started? What's the easiest way to get started without like risk for myself, or starting a business where I'm in over my head or something like that? Well, then this video is perfect for you. Up first is Eric Olson talking all about how he got started in a permaculture business.
It's the easiest business to start by far. If you can get out just you and some loppers and a saw, a little hand saw, some pruners, and you got what you need to start a maintenance business. You don't need a contractor's license often. You can keep it time and materials, so you can keep the budget pretty light. Or you can just say, I'm going to show up at your place twice a week for 4 hours each time, and it's going to cost this much money. Many successful permaculture folks, and a lot of folks start here, which is just giving consultations. It's very simple. You're not necessarily going to make a ton of money, but it generates work for other kinds of work for you. So now what we do at Permaculture Artisans is we charge $100 an hour for a consult. If a client signs a design contract, then the consult is credited into that design proposal. So they will get the free consult if they commit to working with us later, but if they don't, then it's just a consultation. So you pay me for my time, no problem, good to go. Another very extremely powerful tool of the consultations, and I would say what really got me projects early on, was a follow-up report.
We really started with consultations, like single day, walk and talks, homestead scale, making recommendations, walking around like, how do you prune this citrus tree? There's an erosion problem over here. What do you do? Writing up like a 3 to 5 page PDF, delivering that a few days after. That was like 2 years of just traveling around the country, being road warriors doing that. Education has been a thread throughout the entire business of running 1 to 3 PDCs and some other courses a year. Early on, it was even though we've never charged that much for courses, it was a major part of our revenue. Now it's a pretty minor part of our revenue, and we even use our private clients to subsidize our education to offer really affordable courses in Spanish. So while we do keep teaching, it's no longer an important part of our business. It's much more of a social component of how we operate.
A company that's only doing design has a lot less liability, right? If you just do design and you don't do install, you don't necessarily have as much overhead. You don't have people out there working, with machines and stuff, injury potential and all of that, less of an insurance headache. And you can get around having to have a contractor's license.
Kind of focus now on retreat centers, private retreats, and ranches. We do some residential stuff, of course, but the idea is that that we can tie it to a bigger a community of projects, right? So, there's some design work that we do. There's a event space and and again, we've got, some even small gardens, but they're all kind of tied together with that approach to how we look at systems, right? Try to educate people and how they can turn their property and contribute to a greater good in the community, community as a whole.
When you're developing install projects, the difference between giving a proposal versus working time and materials. These are two very, very key facets to how we organize an installation project. So a proposal-based project would say, here's the design. It has a pond, has some raised beds, it has a patio, it has an orchard. It's going to cost you $56,000. And they say, okay, I agree to that. I'm going to sign on this contract. You're going to build all that for me for $56,000. And hopefully you've done the work to create, to create that proposal to know that you can get it done for that. And then you're on to get this job done for $56,000. That's the proposal. Time and materials is different. That's to say, I'm only going to charge you for the time and materials it takes to do the project. Now, that can be a great way to start out. Really wonderful way to start. If you don't know, if you're worried about putting proposals together, just do time and materials. Say, I charge $40 an hour. Here's how much the irrigation stuff is, and I'm going to do the work, and I'm going to give you an invoice at the end. Super clean, super great. The problem is that if you haven't had conversations about the cost of the project, then what could happen is you could send them an invoice for your time and materials. I mean, this is it. This is what I did. And they say, $3,000. I didn't know it was going to cost that much. I can't afford that. Don't wait until you've done all the work to talk about changes. The worst possible thing you can do is give a client a final invoice that is above and beyond what they think it's going to cost without them knowing that those extra costs are going to be there. That's the worst thing you can do, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to pay you for that. And you'll be screwed because you will have already done the work. So always better to catch these things earlier on. Keep the communication, constant communication, constant communication.
I call it the Plant Lych business model. It's finding things that are endangered or lost in terms of the genetics, things like that black cohosh or ramps that are endangered, and resurrecting that plant stock, saving it and passing it on to the future. It's doing something that's really great for the future and great for the planet, and it's great for us. It can be a truly viable business model.
Well, what are your thoughts? Put them in the comments. Which of those most resonates with you? Are you more of a, I'll start with consultancy sort of thing that seems like low bar of entry and I can't mess it up too bad? Or are you like, no, I really want to get into design because I can do that globally. I can do that from my home office, etc. Or is it like, no, I want to install these systems, man? In which case it'll probably be within the state or the province that you're in. Which one most excites you? Or maybe it's that one with Mike Ho where he's talking about resurrecting sort of like, nearly dead plant genetics, or finding new genetics in your area, or finding niche genetics. It's interesting, in the permaculture world, we have a ton of interesting niche genetic plants or fungi, etc. Because really, like, mainstream agriculture and mainstream sort of marketplaces don't sell a ton of variety. So we have a lot to offer by way of like interesting varietals or interesting plants to sell that people in our area could love. At the end of this video, stick around just at the end, because there's a little vignette that Mike Hogue shares about how he resurrected a certain apple species in Kalamazoo, Michigan that was really unique and special to that region. And he's sort of like bringing it back from the dead, the Plant Lych model, right? Before you go, if you're interested in hearing more from these presenters, the full interviews can be found at pina.in/courses. As a Pina member, you get these all for free. So just join a Pina membership at the $75 level or higher, and you get all the courses for free. This is the Permaculture Business Builder course, and it has all the people that you just heard from doing their full presentations. It's really a remarkable set of sharings, teachings, and learnings in that course. So check it out if you're interested in going a little bit deeper into how you can start your own permaculture business or take your existing permaculture business to the next level. At Pina, we're committed to growing permaculture businesses and permaculture nurseries because we see that permaculture is needed. Really, it's the thinking and the modeling behind permaculture, the holistic framework and the way that we model nature to solve our problems. That's what we want to see permaculture sort of like seep into society writ large. And one of the best ways to do that is through our creative endeavors and our entrepreneurial entrepreneurial endeavors. Sometimes there aren't jobs for a permaculturist, so you have to create your own job as a permaculturist. And the beauty of that is it allows the creative thinking, sort of the artfulness of entrepreneurship, but also the artfulness of studying nature and studying permaculture to become the vehicle for how permaculture manifests into the mainstream culture. So if you're interested in learning more, please head to pina.in/courses and check out our offerings. Without further ado, here's Mike talking about a very interesting apple variety from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
A few years ago, I found a plant in Kalamazoo. It was the McSweeney apple. And this was an apple variety that was special to Kalamazoo. It was like Kalamazoo's apple. I found a reference in a history book that everybody back then, everyone in Kalamazoo had a McSweeney apple in their backyard. But just due to history and everybody wanting Macintosh apples, the McSweeney kind of fell out of favor, and it had been basically entirely lost. But I was able to find one in downtown, an old one that was kind of still in an old church lot. It was this old half-dead tree, but it was viable to get sign wood from and to resurrect a long-lost tree variety that had a special story to my hometown. There are so many opportunities for the Plant Lych business model, resurrecting dead plants.